What's up, everybody? We are here with you tonight, Dynasty 365 on the Fantasy and Frames Network. We have got Chris Burns down here in the corner. We've got Tyler Heil up there in the other corner. Guys, we are going to be talking about those free agent to bees, the running back edition, part 1 this week. Let's go. What's up, everybody? If you are in the chat, please remember to throw us your questions, your comments. We will get to them before the end of the show. Guys, I want to talk about what was your favorite part about week 13? Christopher, you're up first.
All right. So just before we get started, I want to let everybody know that I'm coming off of the flu. So my voice is a little sultry and I'm fighting a little cough, but I'm going to get through this. All right. But my favorite part of week 13 was I feel like I was the only one who correctly predicted that the 49ers were going to absolutely roll the Eagles. You know, a lot of people thought that it was going to be a close game or it was going to be really close to the spread or Philly was going to win. But watching Philadelphia games this year, like, it's just so many things that just like happen. Like when they play, yes, they are a great team, but it doesn't have that oomph that they had last year, you know. But the 49ers, when they are healthy, I mean, they are the most dominant team in the league, and I thought that they would prove it, and they did it. So that made me happy being right. I always like being right.
We did that.
Oh, yeah. Chris, you kind of, if you want to do like a sultry voice, you could do like the Tim Meadows, like ladies man, like a voice from Saturday Night Live.
Hello, ladies. Can I buy you a fish sandwich? This is the ladies man. This is the deviant. Giving you Dynasty takes for days and days.
Oh my gosh. All right. Save that. We're going to have to discuss that later. That might be a new TikTok. Oh my goodness. Tyler, what was your favorite part from week 13?
I didn't have a whole lot to celebrate. You know, I guess I had to celebrate Joe Flacco, who actually looked like a very competent NFL quarterback. So I'd say that was probably my favorite part, just as a Browns fan and as a football fan. Like 38-year-old Joe Flacco coming in and actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
That loss was not on him. That game was also a whole lot closer than the score shows of 36-19. But Joe Flacco looked good. Browns defense just can't stand up with Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett not really playing. If I'm going to be petty, my favorite part was the Steelers taking 5.5 hours to get fucking trounced by the Cardinals.
That was a lot of fun. I want to ask you, like, why is Joe Flacco still playing football? Like, what are some theories that we have out there?
Because he can?
I liked mine better. He just didn't want to spend time with his family, like Brady. Like, I can't be at home anymore. Like, have to keep playing football.
I mean, I would assume he's married and has kids. I don't know. He's 38. He's one of the few NFL players that is actually older than me still.
I mean, he's got to love it. He took a job in Cleveland.
Right? It has to be.
That's the love of the game right there.
Love of the game.
I don't live there anymore for a reason, Chris.
Joe Flacco famously made my waiver wire article this week. So go check it out if you're still looking to do waivers on a Wednesday night. My favorite thing from this week, guys, did you guys know that the Packers beat the Chiefs? Did you guys know that? Did you guys see it? It was wonderful.
Didn't watch a minute of it.
It was so great. You missed out. It was wonderful. 27-19. I don't hear anything about non-calls at the end of the game. That's nonsense. All right. Just let them play. They let them play, and the better team won. That's all I gotta say.
Let's not talk about like non-calls in a game. Like we can talk about refs and just bad game management, like not calling easy stuff like bad formations or something like that. But honestly, these bad calls tend to equal out. Like it all comes out in the wash eventually. You get really bad calls against your team gets bad calls for them. Like it comes out in the wash, you know?
Dolphins never get any good calls. Never.
Jesus.
I mean, listen, Mahomes got that absolute bullshit, unnecessary roughness call. Okay. Like, come on. But Simone Biles' husband did not hurt him. It was fine. All right. Did you guys know that's who hit him? Simone Biles' husband. He plays for the Packers. Did y'all know that?
No, did not.
Yeah, he does.
I was, in fact, texting our very own Nate Markham when Christian Watson kind of went and made us all look silly for kind of throwing some dirt on his grade much too early. So that's a little bit of a reminder for us to not jump the gun on some of these young players.
Well, he did go down with a hamstring injury again, so I don't know if that was too early, but
Man,
After
he must
catching
have missed
two
a really good
touchdowns.
game.
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, you can go back and watch it. Just
Probably not.
I will
Probably not.
go back and watch it.
I missed a lot of football after that Washington, dog walking. So after that, I really don't know what happened. You know,
That was my favorite part. My least favorite part of Sunday was our beloved Tank Dell suffering a broken fibula on a play, which I still don't understand why he was in there doing what he was doing. But I just thought we should say some words on Tank Dell's behalf. Ranked 14th overall as going in, or actually at the end of this week, 7 touchdowns, 709 yards. We'll see you in September, good friend.
To say
Tank Dell, you have died to make Nico Collins the hero of many
Yeah.
fantasy teams.
Tank Dell had to die so that Nico Collins could win fantasy championships for everybody.
Man, you think with a name like Tank, he'd be tougher?
You know, I wanted somebody, and I know that's terrible, but I was like waiting for that, like somebody to say that. They did not.
I feel bad now.
Oh, my God.
His nickname's only Tank because he had a big head when he was a kid.
Right? Yeah, that is what his mom says. Chasing chips. That's the reason why good receivers don't do what he did, right? Yeah, 100%. So Tank Dell, we'll see you next season, buddy. All I kept thinking about was like that Vince McMahon meme where he's like, I was like, that's like what Tank Dell's, like when people ask me what Tank Dell's season would have been. He hadn't broken. Oh man. God, I have so much Tank Dell. It's painful. It's painful now. Jamie, what's up? We see you in the chat. So we're going to get a notification for the show, but I am glad that you checked too. So you're here with us tonight. Guys, every Wednesday, 8:00, we are here. So let's get started talking about some of our running backs. So last week we started with the quarterbacks, guys, the free agents that are coming up this following year, this next year in 2024. We've got so many running backs that are going to be free agents. We had to break this up into 2 separate shows. So we're going to do 9 this week. We're going to do 9 next week. No particular order. There's going to be some guys on here that have a ton of value, some guys that maybe not so much value. So kind of just mix it up a little bit. Chris, kick us off. Who we got first?
All right, I'm going to be starting off with Tony Pollard. So Tony Randall Parker, if you will, is currently the running back for the Dallas Cowboys. He was drafted out of Memphis in 2019. Another one of those miscast Memphis players that come into the league and did better than a lot of people expected him to. He'll be entering his age 27 season in 2024. And he currently right now is playing on the final year of his 1-year, $10.1 million contract, $10,091,000 if you're really counting pennies. In March of 2023 of this year, the Cowboys showed that they were willing to move on from Zeke, by paying Pollard that lead back money. And if you're just curious about if that lead back money, for comparison, like Nick Chubb this year's average salary was $12.2 million, Aaron Jones 11.5, Saquon, all that happened with him and what they gave him was 10.1 or $10,091,000, the exact same. Josh Jacobs, after all he went through, he's only got paid $11.791 million this year. And just as a quick aside, if you look at these contract numbers for these running backs, the owners are really playing a game where they're really not trying to pay these guys. If you look at the top 10 running backs, like Christian McCaffrey, $16 million, Alvin Kamara, $15 million, Derrick Henry, 12.5, Nick Chubb, 12.2, and the list goes on. You go down to at number 9, James Conner at $7 million, and Miles Sanders, he's overpaid at 6.4. But it is clear that these owners have set a price list where if you are elite, you get, the mid-teens, not the upper, but right there in the mid. If you're just an average running back, they're not trying to pay you more than $10 million. And unfortunately, looking at the incoming free agents, I can't see anybody breaking the bank. It's sad because these guys are important. They do a lot. And I feel like the owners are really playing games for sure. But back to Tony Pollard, so far, this being his first year as a lead dog, he's seen his snap share jump to 70%, where in his career it's never been over 50%. It was 49.5 at the highest when Zeke was there. He has 737 yards and 5 touchdowns, 48 catches for 248 yards. So he's a little bit less than what a lot of people were expecting him. He's seeing his lowest yards per tip of his career, and that could just be with the higher workload. So what are the real world implications of him being a free agent next year? The Cowboys, they could try to re-sign Pollard to another contract, which could be beneficial for both parties, or they could just, say we're going to try to get cheaper and let Pollard hit the market. His market value has him somewhere between that $6 to $10 million range, like that's starting running back money, somewhere between the values of Miles Sanders and Joe Mixon. And honestly, I think I don't really know exactly where I want him over Sanders, but Mixon, I'm not really sure. The fantasy implications if he's a free agent next year, you probably see similar to slightly less production from Pollard. I feel that anywhere he goes, he is not going to be dominant. He's going to be part of a committee. He will never get that lion's share, like a full role. For the dynasty implications, for me, I'm team sell. I'm selling Pollard if I can. Like Pollard right now, he's past that age apex where historically you start seeing less production from running backs. However, with the new NFL, that window is extending, so we see them last a little bit longer. But it's still one of those things where I'm not feeling so good about it. You look at him when he had the lead dog role, like even in games where it's a plus matchup, you expect him to smash. He hasn't really done much. So I'm extremely fearful that he's just going to Thelma and Louise it right off that cliff and then never hear from him again. So I'm looking to sell him. I've been looking for high-level picks or, young assets. But right now, I don't think you're going to get a first-round pick for Tony Pollard. I wouldn't just give him away. I'd max out what I could get for him, but I'm definitely selling right at this point.
Who's the Brad Pitt character in that scenario, Chris? If he's
Mike McCarthy, obviously.
Oh, maybe in his dreams. Oh my gosh. Now you all have that image in your mind. Yeah. What's up, Bob Harris? We see you guys all in the chat. Just a reminder to everybody out there: send us your questions. We will get to them in between running back talk. Oh my goodness. Now I shouldn't have even have asked that question. Now I just have like visions of Mike McCarthy.
You're welcome.
In my brain. Oh my goodness. Tyler, it distracts me. Talk about something else.
So the guy I'm going to talk about is Saquon Barkley. Chris did a really good job of kind of highlighting what the running back market looks like right now. I'm really curious to see how this offseason goes because of all of the nonsense with Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs all getting the franchise tag this past season, and the running backs in the league just raising hell and just honestly just creating problems, which is kind of what they were trying to achieve. So that's the reason why likely a lot of these guys are going to be hitting free agency rather than receiving a franchise tag. And Saquon is one of the few guys that's hitting the market that he's an alpha. They are not very common. And Chris, you kind of highlighted it with Pollard. He's just not a number one back. He's a super number two that now has to get paid like a number one. So that is unfortunate. The skill set on these guys that requires them to be a 20 touch a game player is it's obscene. I mean, you have to be a fantastic runner. You have to be able to catch passes. You have to be really sturdy for the most part. Saquon is all of those except for maybe really sturdy, but he's just a star. I mean, he's always been a freak athlete. He's been capable of crazy things. But where is he? So he's 26 years old. He's going to be 27 in February. Certainly, he's really only going to get one more contract. He's dangerously close to that 1,500 touch mark, which is kind of a milestone for a runner. Whereas, the age is valid, that kind of 26-year-old number. But from what I've seen, it's more the touches. And he is close to that 1,500 touch milestone. He has 1,394 total in his career so far, 1,119 rushes, 275 receptions. I think he still has some usefulness in him. He still has some life in him. And I think he's going to get a nice contract and he's going to play up to it. So if I'm looking at some of the stats from this year, and I like looking at these running backs with advanced statistics, because the yards per attempt number is flawed. The total rush yards is flawed. So I pulled the advanced rushing stats from Fantasy Pros and advanced rushing stats from Pro Football Reference. I filtered out all the guys that have less than 50 attempts, so we have a decent sample size. And that puts Saquon at 22nd in effective play rate, which is a statistic that I totally made up. All I did was take the amount of rushes that have gone for 10 plus yards this season and divide it by their total attempts. So he's 22nd in effective play rate. He's 11th in explosive play rate, another stat I've made up, which is just rushes of 20 plus yards compared to his total rushes. So Saquon is relatively effective for being on a bad offense, 22nd in the league. He's still explosive, 11th in explosive play rate, also on a very bad offense. He's 54th in success rate, which is not good. 54th out of 58 players. There's that bad offense that's rearing its head, and he's 48th in broken tackles per attempt, which also is not good. So all said, I think he's still an effective back. He's an explosive back, and that's kind of what Saquon is. I think he needs an effective back behind him, which he has never had with the Giants. They have never made an attempt to get a number two, and I think he has suffered for that. And this kind of applies to all of these running backs. This draft class coming in is lacking in running backs. It has useful backs. It has backs that are absolutely going to play roles on an NFL offense. It has almost zero. I'm sure there could be one, but it has very, very few opportunities to have a alpha number one back coming out. And that's why a lot of these free agent running backs are going to get paid, because a lot of it is driven by the availability in the draft. So Saquon's likely going to get probably the biggest contract out of these guys. Maybe Josh Jacobs will have something to say for that, but he'll likely sign a 4-year deal with guarantees into the second year. So I think Saquon can absolutely help your fantasy team for the next year or two. But that's another scenario where you need to take a tough look at your team. If you are not absolutely a contender, you likely need to be looking to get what you can out of Saquon while there is still value in him. I would suspect that his value is going to go up this offseason. He's still on a Tommy DeVito / Tyrod Taylor quarterbacked offense. And I would sincerely doubt he's going back to the New York Giants this offseason. So when he signs with a team that likely has a more effective offense, I think its value will go up. So if you're looking to sell, you might want to wait a few months.
Hey, Tyler, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So, you're thinking they're going to get paid, which I agree with you. So what average yearly salary do you think they're looking at? Do you think the owners are moving off the stance they've taken this last 2 years?
I don't think they're moving off the stance they've taken. I think there's a possibility they've moving off kind of this draft a running back and then tag him twice and really kind of screw him over. Yeah. I think the noise the running backs have made this offseason might have done some work toward preventing the whole tag and use them up scenario, I don't think it's going to make any difference in their average salaries.
Gotcha.
That is unfortunate. Jamie has a question. He wants to know, do we think that Malik Willis would have a better career as a running back, being 6'1", 220, running a 4.55 40 time? What do you guys think?
The new Lamar Jackson. Is this fast black quarterback a better running back? No, I don't think he'd have a better career. I think you'd have a much better career being a backup quarterback in the NFL for 10 years.
I mean, we looked at their career earnings for all those backup quarterbacks last week. I mean, those guys are sitting pretty.
And have you seen Malik Willis when he's scrambling? He doesn't have field vision. No, he wouldn't. I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. Hello, Mr. Scampers. We see you in the chat. Thank you for joining us. All right, guys. So I'm going to talk a little bit about AJ Dillon from Quad Squad University, if you caught his intro on Sunday Night Football. He is 25 years old, drafted in the second round in 2020 out of Boston College. Guys, this is his first contract. He has earned a total so far of $5.3 million. You know, it's my favorite stat when we do this. Statistically, right, Dillon's best year was 2021, right? So he ran for 828 yards, 6 touchdowns. It doesn't really sound all that impressive because it's really not. So sorry, AJ Dillon. I love you so much. I think you're just a really fun person, for the Packers. But this is not gonna get any better the longer I go on. So doesn't really provide much in the passing game. Low in the double-digit catches historically. He's been given the chance to be the guy several times, right? Because Aaron Jones has had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. And I mean, really, he hasn't delivered. I mean, he hasn't had over 100 yards so far this season, or even, coming anywhere near it at this point. Specifically this season, he's averaging 7.3 fantasy points per game, which kind of puts him right at running back 35, according to Fantasy Pros. His contract obviously going to be up in 2020, or Jones's rather contract is going to be up in 2025. So, I mean, look, even if the Packers did resign him, he's going to be in the same position that he's in now. There's not really anybody there kind of breathing down his neck right now. They got Patrick Taylor on the depth chart. So, I mean, unless they go out and draft somebody, which they typically don't do unless it's like this year, which was the complete anomaly with their skill position players, the odds are that he may end up there. And if he does stay there, it's not really going to do much for your dynasty team. I mean, I don't think he's really contributing to your roster at this point. It's not really an impact player. So, I mean, unless you're super desperate, you're not starting, AJ Dillon. I don't really see that changing, regardless of whether he's with the Packers next year or in the same role with a different team next year.
So, Stacy, one thing you said there kind of made me think of something I was looking at as I was going through these running backs, because I kind of did the same exercise as I did for the quarterbacks last week. But you have to kind of change what you're looking at with running backs. Essentially, every team needs 2. So you got to look at their availability. However, I won't go into all of that. I did, though, see 4 players that I think are true cut candidates this year who could be in that free agent market. The first one being James Conner. He has an $8.5 million cap hit next year. If they cut him, they will save $5.5 million. So only $3.5 million dead cap. So he would be a hefty cap savings. Alvin Kamara, it's meh because the Saints are the Saints and they push so much money into future years. His cap hit is $18.87 million next year, which is huge. If they cut him, they would only save $2.1 million. So you don't really see that happening. If anything, they'll just kick the can further down the road, reduce his base salary, and make that dead cap hit for 2025 like $200 million. The next one's Joe Mixon, who he had to take a pay cut at the beginning of this year just to stay on the roster, because Mixon he's an ineffective back. He's nothing special. He's just a guy who has a blow-up game here and there. Otherwise, he's meh. That's what he is. His cap hit is $8.5 million next year. If they cut him, they would save $5.75 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite a bit of savings for a team that gave Joe Burrow a large contract, is going to have to pay Jamar Chase, although I don't know if that affects much, or wants to actually bring T. Higgins back. So that's a possibility. And Aaron Jones, which is the guy that you mentioned that made me think of it, his cap hit next year is $17.7 million. His savings would be mediocre at $5.4 million, which is, it's nothing to sneeze at when it comes to cap dollars, but the Packers offense has been demonstrably better when Aaron Jones is on the field and healthy. So if they can get him back healthy, I would think they would want to hang on to him. But keep an eye out for him as a potential cut candidate.
Well, and I would think they'd want to hang on to him too, because they've got such a young, group there right now. I mean, I think I heard that the average, and I didn't look this up, I think this was a stat that I heard watching Sunday Night Football, like the average guy on there, the 25, I think is the oldest or something like that, just in their group of starters.
Really?
So we really want Aaron Jones there with that, kind of veteran presence, to kind of, help Jordan Love as he, grows and kind of becomes, steps further into that role, as a starter there. So hopefully they stay. I really, like I said, I really do love AJ Dillon, and to answer, JB's question down here about, do we think that this year's exposed him? I mean, I kind of think so. I mean, like I said, I mean, he's had several opportunities now when Aaron Jones has been out to really kind of take on that role, and show that he can be, the guy there, the number one, and he really hasn't done much with it at all.
Career has exposed him.
It really has, unfortunately. So, I mean, I think this is his role. I think his role is, an RB2 with gigantic quads that, will just kind of bruise through players. And that's, you're really not hoping to get too much out of the passing game from him. So.
Are his quads better than Saquon, though?
Because Saquon was the original, right? The OG quad father. And then AJ Dillon comes on right after him, right? So.
Quadzilla and... Hey, question: have you seen AJ Dillon and Zack Moss in the same place? Because I haven't.
I have not.
Coincidence? I don't know.
Don't know. Now we need to find out whether or not. So we've got Dillon, we've got Saquon, Leonard Fournette's making a run at quad father now. I don't know if you guys saw the Buffalo picture.
You have to have muscle, not just fat, to be quad father.
I'm sorry. Did you see the picture of him out in Buffalo with those itty bitty shorts that he had? My goodness. Yeah, Zack Moss does score. Not last week. He didn't score touchdowns last week, JB. Much to my fantasy team today, but normally he does, and hopefully he will this week.
More to come on Zack Moss.
I've got two guys. So I have him and Eckler. Nobody cares about my fantasy team, but I have him and Eckler going into a championship, and I really need more than 11 points combined from the two of them, which is the big week. So thanks, guys. Chris, talk to me about Gus Edwards.
All right. So Gus Edwards and Stacy, you said the career earnings for your guy.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards has made $13.4 million. We will at the end of the season. Good for him. Mr. Augustus Edwards. Did you know his name was Augustus? I thought it was Gustavus. But anyway, he is a fifth-year running back coming out of Rutgers. He's entering his age 29 season in 2024. In March of this year, the Ravens, they did some of that, cap gymnastics that teams do, adding void years and converting part of salary to signing bonuses, trying to make sure they could, make Lamar happy and give him some money. So basically it all boils down to Edwards making $3.4 million this year. And he'll be a free agent at the end of the season once all those void years are dispelled. Edwards, he ended the season expecting to be a part of that committee in Baltimore. They always have a ton of running backs to support the true running back in Lamar. With Dobbins being the alpha, but Dobbins in Dobbins fashion, he went down, and Edwards, he kind of emerged slightly as the lead dog, and that's solely because he's getting all these touchdowns, but it's definitely a fluid backfield. You don't know if it's going to be Keaton Mitchell. You don't know if it's going to be Justice Hill. Hell, Kenyon Drake might get in there a couple times and, score on you. So it's always going to be a fluid backfield. But Edwards has, had steady production with those touchdowns. So far this year, 141 carries for 590 yards. Like I said, whopping 10 TDs. I mean, he's caught 10 passes for 130 yards, so he's not really helping you much in that passing game. he becomes a free agent. What are the real world implications? I mean, Gus will be 29 next year, and he's probably not going to be a major factor for any team that he might land on. There's a possibility if he just goes to a team that seems to always be at the goal line, like the Lions or Philly. We know it's not going to happen in Philly because Hurts got that, but that goal line back in Detroit always seems to get his touchdowns. Rest in peace, Jamal Williams. His market value, it's probably somewhere close to what he's getting paid now. I can't see him making much more, like between that 2.8 and 4 million. That's what the average salary this year for Mostert and Jamal Williams is, which is kind of crazy. His fantasy implications, he's a plotter. I mean, he'll get you those touchdowns if, he's close to the goal line, but you really can't expect much. He doesn't have a ceiling to speak of, and his floor could be nothing. Dynasty implications, I mean, sell. You should have already sold him, unless he's just helping you win a championship right now. But you don't expect to get much for the bus. I mean, at his age, dynasty owners are already averse to taking like someone 29, and they'd rather throw a dart on a unnamed rookie than to actually, pay you for Gus Edwards. DLF, they have him as less than a 24 third, like his value, and I agree with him. But another weird fact, other than being named Augustus, did you know that he's represented by Drew Rosenhaus? Who would have thought that?
That's why he's $2 million.
You know what? You're right.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah. I thought Drew
Stacy.
had all the big high name guys, but go ahead.
Opportunity.
Drew, or if you're listening, are you hiring?
Oh, no, I was thinking steal some of his clients, but I guess you could do that too.
Shh.
Work my way on his side. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. All right, Tyler, tell me about 7-point man Zack Moss.
He's seven point man.
7 points. Yeah, he scored 7 points. I'm not bitter at all. He scored me 7 points this week.
Okay. I was like, is this something I'm supposed to know or be aware of?
If you have Moss on your team, you know what he did this week.
So Zack Moss, he's done pretty well this year for a fantasy output perspective and just kind of a football output perspective. However, we need to remember where he came from when we're talking about kind of what his fantasy value is moving forward. He was third-round draft pick, 22nd in the third round by the Buffalo Bills. Zero success with him. He was not a factor in that team. So much so that they traded him for scraps to the Indianapolis Colts. He came out of Utah. He's not an overly athletic guy. He's a big back type guy. He's a plotter. He's 4'6", 40, 33-inch vert coming out of college. 5'9", 223. Big dude, strong dude. He can get some things done for you, but he's just nothing special. And I say that because I think he's a product of the system he's in. I think Shane Steichen is quietly one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, and Zack Moss has seen the success of that. If we're talking those stats again, he's 20th in effective play rate, 10-plus yards with 10.6%. He's 9th, actually, in explosive play rate with 3.8%. 27th in success rate, 48.1%. And we kind of covered success rate last week, but essentially it's if you get 40% of the yards needed for a first down on first down, 60% of the yards needed on second down, or if you get a first down on third and fourth down. The one thing that jumped out to me, though, that shows me he is a bit of a product of his system, he's 57th out of 58 running backs in broken tackles per attempt. He is not creating any yards on his own. He's just not doing it. That offense is creating the yards for him. So he remains nothing special. He can be helpful if he were to take a step back and see, okay, I should probably stay in Indianapolis. Can I take a 1 year, 2 year deal at $1.5 million a year, something like that? a little over the veteran minimum. That's going to just get his years toward the pension, frankly. What can he do for your fantasy team? Short term, he's a buy. Jonathan Taylor is out likely through the playoffs. I would believe if it were me and I had Zack Moss and I'm trying to sell him, my ask is a second. Will someone pay that? Possibly. Would I pay that? Maybe. So if it's a late second, yeah, I'd certainly consider it. A third and a fourth, I'd be kind of crow hopping that at someone for Zack Moss, especially if he does take a step back and lands back in Indianapolis, backing up Jonathan Taylor next year. We shall see. But either way, Zack Moss is going to be a very productive back for the next through the playoffs, it seems, because I wouldn't believe Jonathan Taylor's going to be back in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So I would pay a late second for Zack Moss and hope he can kind of carry me to a championship if I'm hurting a running back.
Yeah, Tyler, to that, I did see in one of my leagues, Zack Moss was traded for 2 seconds. So it's out there.
That's a nice price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to be a championship winner, like, okay, like I'm not gonna hold that against you.
I agree.
You're being aggressive. Just get your guy, man.
That's right. Colts play the Bengals this week. Bengals typically give up on average 19.5 points to opposing teams' running backs. So
yeah, that's a lot more than Tennessee gives up to running backs.
Yeah, it is. Let's hope he puts up 19.5 points for me specifically this coming week.
That's all we care about.
That's all. That is 100% all I care about. You are absolutely
not the
right.
Listeners, no one else but Stacy.
Well, I hope we put that for everybody else too, but specifically for me. All right, guys. So my guy is going to be Zeke Elliott. Yeah, Zeke. Right. I mean, do you guys feel
League
like
winner?
Right? Like he's been around forever. I feel like he's been around forever. But he's only 28 years old. Fun fact for him, he did make my waiver wire article this week. If you are running back needy, Ramondre looks like he's going to be out. So I'd go grab Zeke if you're desperate at that position. You just don't. But listen, if you take him on waivers, you don't have to watch the Patriots game on Thursday. So you can still put him in your lineup. You don't actually have to.
Zeke has been good this year.
I'm not saying he hasn't been good. I'm just saying that like having to watch a Patriots game is like punishment. Like Tyler, if your kids act up this week, force them to watch that game.
So just a little insight into how good Zeke has been. I'm fighting for my life in a Kings Classic League, trying to make the playoffs. I'm 6-7. I'm the highest scorer in the league. And you want to know who my RB2 is?
Zeke
and
Elliott.
has been all year? Ezekiel Elliott, baby.
Oh my goodness. I have what he is. Yeah. So he is currently, I'm going to skip down for a little bit and then go back. So currently he's sitting on 429 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 6.7 points per game in a half PPR format, puts him at running back 38 via Fantasy Pros. That probably has a lot more to do with the state of the Patriots offense than really anything to do on Zeke's end of that. And that, just been Ramondre there for a while. But going back to the beginning of my analysis for him, right? Historically, he's been a stud. He's been Zeke. I mean, like, you just know, like, he's been one of the top running backs the last several years. He's got 4 1,000 plus yard rushing seasons, double-digit touchdown seasons as well. But that means a lot of tread on those tires, right? He does have some goal line value, which is why New England picked him up. Look, his dynasty impact, he's getting real close to being over the hill for running backs, especially those who have had a lot of usage in their careers. He hasn't shown a super ton of value this week or this year. Tyler, look, I know he's you got him. He's your RB2, right? But look, he's 429 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's not great, right? That's not you're hoping for more is what I'm saying. All right. Again, I think that's do more to the offense that he's in and the role that he's in. But honestly, I don't really see it getting much better for him fantasy wise. I don't think he's never going to go back to having those 1,000-yard plus seasons, right? Like this is going to kind of be the role that he's in from now on. He's going to be in that backup role, that goal line role, whether it's for the Patriots or some other team next year. If you've got him on your dynasty team, I mean, maybe you hang on to him, as kind of a, depending on where he lands, maybe he's there to kind of sneak in for bye week fill-ins, that kind of stuff. You're probably not starting him. Maybe you could ship him off to somebody who really loves the Cowboys and just has a lot of nostalgic feelings about the time when he was in Dallas, in some sort of like multiplayer deal. But this is probably going to be his role for the next year or two until he probably retires. And at that point, that's kind of how if I had to get out my little crystal ball, that's what I foresee happening.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he's Tyler's RB2 next year. Who knows?
Who knows? I was making a cringe face because it actually had me looking at my matchup to make the playoffs in the Kings Classic League. And the guy that I'm playing has Justin Jefferson coming off IR.
I'm sorry, it's not funny.
That's fair.
Never mind. I'm not gonna go on that rant. We all know how much it hurts to be the best team in the league and still just be getting everyone's best week.
Yep.
It absolutely does. Hey, John has a quick question before we move on. Chris, John wants to know, is Tajay Spears a flex play this week? Do you feel like it depends on whether or not Derrick Henry plays?
I think a lot of it depends on if Henry playing, but didn't Mike Vrabel say that he's actually not in the concussion protocol? So more than likely he is going to be playing.
I think he's practicing too. I think I saw that he's out there. Like, so what happened? Like he was taken out of the game for a concussion, right?
Yeah.
Am I crazy? I didn't make that up.
Right. No, you didn't make it. At least that's what I thought also. But, I was high on cough medicine, so I really don't know. But with Spears, I think it really depends on what you have. Like if you have to play him, okay, because we've been seeing like how those splits have been a lot closer than I think what a lot of people realize. So if you have to, yes. But if you're expecting him to be the bell cow this week, I think that you might be a little disappointed because I think King Henry is going to be playing.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's looking like. I mean, I had talked about him too in waivers this week, but yeah, I mean, if Henry plays, I don't know that you're really playing Spears.
Right.
I'd take him. I'd go pick him up for sure. That way, if you've got Henry, you've got that nice little handcuff in case something does happen to him.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know if you flex. I don't know, John, you're the flex guru over here. We are gonna have to put your opinion in the chat. See what you think. Chris, talk to us about Antonio Gibson, like the redheaded stepchild of the Commanders.
Yes. Poor Gibby. Nickname he does not like. He hates it.
Is it really?
Yeah, he said he took the camera from somebody and he was like, hey, make sure you're recording this. Like anything but Gibby. He's like, Tony, whatever. He's like, no Gibby. So I still call him Gibby. But before I talk about Gibby, just a quick fun fact about Ezekiel Elliott. Did you know coming out of OSU that he shot a shot with Taylor Swift? He was not Travis Kelce. He was denied. But anyhow, that's just
she didn't like football back then. Now she loves football because she went to the game at Lambeau. So
she doesn't know anything about football.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Supporting her boyfriend. Come on.
Okay.
Good for her.
That's hilarious. Wait, hold on. We have to revisit this, Chris. Did he also do a friendship bracelet with his phone number on it? How did he approach her? Do you know?
On Twitter.
Make it up. Okay, on the Twitter.
On Twitter, he tucked his shirt in his pads and he was like, who's this Taylor? Like, hey, I'm Zeke. And she ignored him. But yeah. I think she made the right move. But anyhow, back to Antonio Gibson. Did you know career earnings for Antonio Gibson? Where do you guys think? How much money do you think he's made in his career so far?
I just looked at the show sheet, so I'm not going to answer.
Oh, okay. $6.4 million at the end of the season.
That's it?
Running backs. Yes, that is it.
Man,
yeah, I'll have to remember where he plays.
Money.
Yeah. So, Antonio Gibson, like he's going to excuse me. This is his third year. He's running back drafted in the third round out of Memphis. There's a lot of Memphis guys on the sheet tonight. Gibson, he's currently in the final year of his 4-year, $4.93 million deal, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent next season. This year, Gibson has, brace yourself, 46 carries for 193 yards, 37 catches for 322 yards, and 2 receiving TDs. He is
finally being used how he should be.
That can go two ways, like how he should be or not at all. But like, so Gibson, like his first 2 years, it actually looked promising. He scored 11 touchdowns his rookie season. His sophomore year, he had over 1,000-yard rushing, So a lot of people were thinking like, okay, Gibson going into his 3rd year, this is going to be the guy. But then Ron Rivera pulled his Ron Rivera stuff, and that weird stuff started happening where, like Gibson, one day he's cool, the next day he's been demoted to like 5th string. And then he's demoted to special teams. And then Rivera saying he's just got to work to get himself back. They draft Brian Robinson, and the weird stuff just keeps going on with no explanation, really. So after clearly being in the doghouse, Gibson actually came back to the lead role after Brian Robinson missed time at the beginning of the season, with that injury that he had. This year, the lack of usage, it continues. And it's a contract year for him, so that's really going to hurt his wallet. But those real world implications of him being a free agent next year, there's so many things that could happen. Like, I don't see a world where both Antonio Gibson and Ron Rivera are both in Washington next year. It just can't happen. I can tell you which one I would rather go, but I won't go to that. His market value right now, has him comps around like Alexander Madison or Samaje Perine. I think Madison has proven that he is not that lead dog, and he's going to fall back to the pack. So I think he's going to be somewhere in that $3.5 million neighborhood. If he goes somewhere else, it really could benefit him and revive his career. If he could be an excellent piece in the passing game, in whatever committee that he joins. He's also shown that he has the ability to run the ball and run between the tackles. Entering his age 26 season, he could be a compliment to a lot of backfields out there, like the Rams. He could complement Kyron. He could go to Dallas, and he could be kind of what Tony Pollard is exactly. Or I got a really good one for you guys. Tell me if you guys like this one. Go to Atlanta and take more touches from Bijan.
If Arthur Smith is still there, his ears just perked up, and he was, yes, this is exactly what we're doing.
Trying to trigger people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. But the fantasy implications, it really depends on where he lands. I don't think that the book is complete on Gibson. And I would love to see him somewhere where he could actually have some type of value. The dynasty implications, it really depends on how risk averse you are. Currently DLF has him less than a 24th third, around the same price as Gus Edwards. I think he's more valuable than that. Because if you bought Gibson now, that bill is going to be extremely low. But almost anywhere other than Washington, I see him having more of an opportunity. More of an opportunity leads to a chance for production. And he's already shown that he can produce in the NFL. So if you buy him for a third and he returns a low RB2 or a flex type production, you've won. You don't always have to hit that 5-run homer. A single gets the results done sometimes. Did I do that right? That's a baseball analogy. Did I get that right, guys?
Yeah, I like it. Good job.
No, you didn't. You said a 5-run homer. That's not a thing.
That means you're trying to hit the ball too hard.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that means. I understand that you can't hit a 5-1. Hold on, I just want to go on the record and say I understand you can't hit a 5-run homer. I'm just saying you're trying too hard to hit a home run. Anyhow. But so, I like that value a little bit more than just whatever rookie that I'm throwing a dart at in the 3rd round. So, I'm buying him just for his price right now. I am buying him, and hopefully he gets a chance. But I'm not thinking that he's going to shoot the moon and that he's going to win leagues, but, he could be valuable for you.
I've got a fit for you, Chris. I just went down my list of teams. Denver Broncos.
Ooh.
Oh, that's intriguing.
That Super 2.
That would be nice for Gibson.
Yeah, a little 1 year, $3.5 million contract in Sean Payton's offense. Get him a little 3-year contract. I like that.
I like that a lot too. That would be nice. Good pull there.
Ooh, that's fun. Make sure to write that down. We'll see what happens with him this year. Like if he ends up on the Broncos,
Don't worry, I'll remember that.
like lotto numbers or something. John says, first off, going back to Gibson, couldn't have been a worse time for that Robinson injury on the bye week. Look, that man heals so fast anyway, so I don't even know that a bye week would have been needed. Yeah, Gibson in Kansas City gonna be fire, backing up my boy Pacheco there once they get rid of CEH, who we will talk about next week. Jamie, speaking of Taylor Swift, huge loss to the Packers. That was a huge loss. Do you think the Chiefs will shake it off and bounce back against the Bills this week?
Boo.
What
Sorry.
boo? Boo for
Tyler,
what?
you need to calm down.
Yeah.
The shake it off reference. Lame, Jamie.
No.
Creative, but lame.
That was perfect. Why you mean, Tyler? Why?
Because that's who I am, Stacy. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. This is in Kansas City at Arrowhead. Like I don't see them losing to Buffalo. I don't know. What about you guys?
I hope they do. Like this is one of the rare instances where you will find me rooting for Buffalo. But I'm hoping Buffalo comes in there. But actually, wasn't it in Buffalo where Gabe Davis, launched himself into relevance with 4 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Playoff game?
I think you're right. I hope he does that again this week too. Since he's in my lineup.
I'll tell you what's going to happen, Stacy. The Buffalo Bills are.
Don't hurt Jamie's feelings, Tyler. See, Jamie now is insecure about his humor. Jamie, that was funny. Don't listen to Tyler.
I'm sorry, Jamie. The Buffalo Bills are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, paving the way further for a Miami Dolphins first-round bye. The Buffalo Bills will sneak into the playoffs as the 7th seed, win, and with the reseeding format of the NFL playoffs, go down to Miami Gardens in the divisional round of the playoffs and trounce the Miami Dolphins because they haven't beat a single good team this year. That's what's going to happen.
Deshaun sucks.
Go ahead, Chris. Oh man,
You are a cruel, cruel man.
it's a cruel summer, Chris.
Chris, it only hurts because you know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I can see that. As you were laying out the scenario, I'm like, I can see it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Tyler, Jamie has another question. So maybe you can redeem yourself since you were so mean earlier, because this is about one of your guys. Nick Chubb's contract ends this year. What's his outlook going forward?
Contract ends in 2024.
Okay. So Jamie, we'll answer that question on next year's running back free agency show.
I mean, I think that's what he means. What's his outlook going forward? After 2024, being a Browns fan and paying attention to this team and kind of paying way too close of attention to the moves that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski made, I sincerely believe that they are going to try to re-sign Nick Chubb. Whether it be at the $12.5 million mark or lower, whether it be at a 2 or 3 year contract, Nick Chubb is the heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns. He absolutely 100% is. He's the best teammate on that team. Everyone loves him. He is Cleveland in that locker room. I firmly believe that they're going to try to keep him on that roster.
Nice. Tyler, I meant to say this earlier and it slipped my mind. Chris, do you still have your drink? Toast Tyler, putting your notes in the show sheet. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, Tyler. Good job.
Cheers.
Yes. All right. Tell me about another failed Buffalo running back, Devin Singletary.
I wouldn't call him a failed Buffalo running back. He played out his contract. He was their best running back for 4 flipping years.
Is that really
not named Josh Allen? So Devin Motor Singletary, drafted in the 3rd round with the 11th pick in 2019 by the Buffalo Bills. He was pretty good with them. Kind of like Zack Moss, not a special athlete. 4.66 40, 35-inch vert, 7.32 3-cone drill. And I know that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. Sub 7 is really good for a 3-cone drill. That's kind of the mark you have to look at. Sub 7 is really good. Close to 7 is fine. 7.32 is whatever. 5'7". He's a short king, 203 pounds. So if we're looking at his advanced stats, he's actually 14th in effective play rate this year, 11.7%, 35th in explosive play rate, 1.6, 30th in success rate, 46.9, is 39th in broken tackles per attempt. So generally underwhelming, but he's 14th in effective play rate, so 10 plus carries of 10 plus yards. That's kind of who Devin Singletary is. He's not going to blow you away. He's not going to be your explosive play guy. He's just going to do a good job for you. And that's exactly what he's done for the Texans. He's come in. He's absolutely just slammed the door on a guy that we were all pretty confident about in Dameon Pierce. I mean, Dameon Pierce got injured for a little bit. Singletary took over, and now Dameon Pierce is just kind of he eats a few carries a game. That's who he is now. He's a really nice number 2 to have on your team. He took a $2.75 million contract with the Texans. I would expect that he will likely land another 1-year deal, maybe a 2-year deal. If he wants to extend his career, I think staying with the Texans would be a good idea for him, and kind of taking that quote unquote hometown discount, because he would be very helpful for your fantasy team. And Singletary is going to continue to be a fantasy producer throughout the end of the season because he's the number 1 running back on a very good offense led by a very good quarterback. So if I'm out there trying to buy Devin Singletary, that's another guy that I'll sell him for a second. I don't know if he's going to be super productive after this year fantasy-wise, because he's kind of just that good guy to have on your NFL football team. So take advantage of his fantasy production right now. Go buy him for a championship run and kind of move on, or just let him waste away on your bench, because a late second is just a late second.
Hey, Tyler.
Yes.
Didn't Pierce have like almost twice as many carries as Singletary did
last week?
Yeah.
I don't know, Chris. Did he?
Yeah, I think he had 15 carries and Singletary had 8.
Was he effective?
Not at all. Not even a little bit. Like with half as many carries, I mean, Singletary had more yards than he did. But just curious.
Yeah. So I guess slam the door is overstating it. You are correct for calling me out on that.
He is. He's sliding it. He's sliding it slowly.
He has soundly outplayed Dameon Pierce.
He has. Yeah.
I want to look this
Thank
up.
you. We got to keep each other honest.
I mean, everything you said was correct except for the touches, but you still want Singletary over Pierce, I think.
Yes.
What are you looking up, Stacy?
I was just looking up the numbers. Yeah. Yep. Dameon Pierce had 15. Devin Singletary had 8. And Dameon Pierce got the touchdown. Yeah.
Good
right.
Lord.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary, nose for the end zone. Do you know how many rushing touchdowns he had in his college career at Florida Atlantic?
No, but I
know he went to Florida Atlantic.
The Owls? Is that the Owls, Florida Atlantic?
It is.
Yeah, it is. Good work. 66 rushing touchdowns.
56?
66. 66.
Even better.
He
Wow.
led the FBS in touchdowns his junior year with 32.
That's amazing.
Goodness.
Nose for the end zone, baby. Yet they give the touchdown.
Nose for the end zone. So league winner Devin Singletary, league winner, Zack Moss, both discussed on our show, and Zeke Elliott talked about this.
The league winner tag might be stretching it a bit.
Who knows?
But Zack Moss could be.
Zack Moss absolutely could be. That you are 100% correct there. All right. Unfortunately, probably not going to be a league winner this year. Is going to be one Mr. Austin Eckler, which makes me really sad because I just shout out to Austin Eckler for how much he does for the fantasy community. Like, he's so into it and just so supportive of it. So love Austin Eckler, love his story. Signed by the Chargers 2017, undrafted. He's 28 years old, currently on a 4-year, $24 million contract with $15 million of that guaranteed, obviously ending this season. Eckler was kind of one of those guys that, like we talked about earlier, helping kind of lead that charge around discussions about running back salaries. He's probably going to be expecting a pretty big payday this year. I mean, he had those kind of, discussions with the Chargers earlier this season as well. So I don't know that they're going to want to pay what he wants. Right. But at the same time, they also have Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller sitting back there. So guys that haven't been super impressive during their time in the NFL. So you'd certainly rather have Austin Eckler back there if you can afford to keep him, unless you plan on drafting a rookie to, on the cheap that you think is going to have the same production, if not better. Which we'll get into the rookie running backs here in the off season, kind of get you guys up to date on that before the draft. But back to Austin Eckler, career stats. Did you guys know that he's never gone over 1,000 yards in his career?
Yeah. Not really surprised. He's been a good split.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say? Just split?
Yeah, he's been a good. He's had a good split. That's pretty much all I had.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's kind of it, right? So, I mean, he's not really on pace to do it this season. We all know that. Missing time with that injury. And honestly, I mean, I kind of feel like, do you guys feel like he's just out there trying to play through and just gut through, those injuries that he's been dealing with all season?
Yeah, I think so. Like, pound for pound, he's one of the toughest people in the NFL.
I mean, he really is. And, that makes him a great teammate, that I'm sure, like I said, just, beloved guy so far, in the NFL. It's not really helpful for fantasy, right? Because we're going to keep throwing him in our lineups if he's starting because of that upside that comes with him after the last couple years, just doing so well. Last year, 21 and 22, he had 12 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns respectively. Both of those years, he went over 900 yards. Last season, he also had over 100 yards receiving. So like I said, makes him a great teammate, not the best for fantasy purposes. Hope that he does get better and, can kind of come back next season and play at the level that he's really been accustomed to playing the last couple years. For his dynasty value, it's really just kind of unfortunate, right? Because that's kind of lowered his value or lowered his production this year. So, going into this year, hoping to get, some more money from somebody, not really having the numbers to kind of support that this season. So he's just going to have to rely on what he's done historically. That being said, if you're trying to get a hold of Austin Eckler, you really like him, really believe that he's going to come back next year, wherever he's at, whether it's with the Chargers or somewhere else, and, continue to produce, maybe this is the time you go out and try to get him, right? Because his value right now, you probably get him for a lot lower than you could at the beginning of the season. When he's going in first rounds and redrafts, his value was so high at that point. So if you really believe in him and you want him on your team, he said he is a little bit older. I mean, he's 28 years old. So, kind of keep that in mind too. But if you're really trying to get him, I think now is probably the time to do so when that value is a little bit lower. I'm going to say hey to Keith Fleming in the chat over there. What's up, Keith? Hopefully we can get some good DFS info from you this week, make some money. That would be really nice. Guys, it's after 9. We should probably wrap it up, huh?
I guess so.
What?
It is going a little long, although I can talk about these guys all night.
Oh, I know. So I guess we'll let you guys go ahead and get started with the Fourth and Frames, guys. Coming up as soon as we are done here on this channel. Make sure that you stay tuned for those guys. Thank you, Jamie. Great show as always, 100%. We are all awesome. Jamie, we will Venmo you for that later. Thank you so much for that. Guys, make sure you're following all of us. You can follow Tyler over at FF Tyler Heil. You can follow Chris down here at Dynasty Deviant. I am at Stacy_Perez83. Make sure that you have given us a like, a follow, a share over there on YouTube, on all of our social media. Guys, we have so many great shows coming up for you this week. We've got, as always, Fantasy and Frames Wednesday with our show starting at 8. Fantasy and Fourth and Frames. Hello. Fourth and Frames coming up right after us. We've got Shoot the Gap for all of your IDP content. Waiver Wire show is on Tuesdays. Pregame show on Sunday morning from 9 until noonish to answer all of your last minute lineup questions. Guys, this has been a blast. We will talk some more running backs next week. See you then.